show today. I have a special guest, Brooke Oachs. Appreciate you for coming on to the show. U.S. Navy, okay, recruiter
Yes.
extraordinaire.
Yep.
All right, and real estate investor. Congratulations!
Thank you.
All right, so I want to dive right deep into it. I want to talk about what made you join the Navy.
So I joined the Navy honestly because I didn't have any plans for college.
Mhm.
I graduated high school, didn't apply for a college, so I was like, you know what? I don't want to take a gap year, so I joined the Navy.
Okay, and where are you from originally?
I'm from Minnesota.
Okay.
hmm
Any family history of military, or just you're the first one?
My dad was in the National Guard. I really had no intentions of joining the military, but I joined the reserves right away. So that
Okay.
was a little different than traditionally like people going active duty for 4 years. But yeah, I joined the reserves right away.
Okay. So how many years did you do in the reserves before you went active duty?
So all in all, I've been in for 10 years. All of that has been reserves minus 2 deployments. I volunteer for 2 mobilizations, and I've been on recruiting orders for a little over 2 years now.
Okay. And where did you? Okay, so you joined the Navy. All right. You went reserves. What made you make that decision from going either reserves or active duty?
So I was in college and I wanted to experience some of the active duty before I got out. So that's when I initially volunteered for mobilization, and I absolutely loved it. I made a ton of new friends, and I was basically looking for the next opportunity to go active.
Okay. And then you said you did 2 deployments. Where did you go?
Guantanamo Bay.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was a lot of fun. Beaches were there. I mean, I'm from a cold place, so it was really nice to get away for the winter. Work was good. I was in operations, so I didn't do anything too crazy. Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you were over there for how long?
9 months.
Okay. Now, I know that if you're reserved and you do your reserve time, then you qualify for benefits that you would normally be able to qualify for.
Exactly.
Can you cover some of those for people who are joining?
Yeah, so if you join the reserves right away, you don't qualify for like the VA home loan until you do like a certain amount of active duty time. And like you have a different GI Bill. So that was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to do mobilization as well, because I wanted to start qualifying for some of those stuff. And like if you can't really put in a disability claim unless you have some active duty time. So little things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So all right. So you went to Guantanamo Bay, and then where were you stationed at for your first duty station?
That was pretty much it. Just the 2 times in Guantanamo Bay, and this is my first longest stint of active duty.
Okay. And all right. So now, when you were doing your reserve time, were you going to school or were you working also, or no? Were you just active AT? Or how does that work?
I was in college. I went to Minnesota State, go Mavs. And then I was working at a hospital doing overnights, and I was in the reserves. So that's kind of how I managed that. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I was just a regular college kid, just doing the military on the side.
Now, what was boot camp like?
Boring. I mean, that's the first thing that comes to mind, ironically. People are like, oh my gosh, like, was it so hard? You have to run all the time. It was a lot of just sitting around and waiting to be told what to do. So that was my initial, and I know it's a lot different for the Marines. But yeah, I was like, I told my fiance that about our boot camp, and he's like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of like sitting around, because people got injured and things like exercising outside. So we weren't allowed to exercise outside, and we had to do everything indoors. So it was pretty boring, to be honest.
Really? So that's interesting, because see, a lot of people are afraid to talk about their experience. But listen, this is a real podcast. If you guys want it real, man, we're going to keep it 100% authentic. So boot camp was boring, but then after you earned the title of a U.S. Navy sailor, how did your family receive you becoming a sailor?
They were excited for me. Yeah, I was, like I said, I had no expectations. I kind of was just going with the flow. But I was getting really excited. Like I went off to A school, and it was really exciting to me to, like, coming from a small town, meeting all these new types of people. And I was actually really bummed that I joined the reserves, because I had to go back home afterwards when everyone was getting their orders cut for Italy and going on a ship, and they had all this exciting stuff. So I was kind of at a standstill, like, oh, I'm going back home, and yeah.
So now you got on reserve. You got on active training. You went to Guantanamo Bay. Okay. What was that first promotion? What was that like?
It was exciting. I wasn't, I know it kind of sounds silly now, but I didn't really care a whole lot about promotion back then because it was just my side hustle. Like the military was my side hustle.
Right.
But once I made E5, I was like making, serious money at that point, what I thought, as active duty. And I was like, okay, like I could do this. Like, and that's when on the second deployment, I came back and I'm like, I need to go active duty. I need to do something. Yeah.
Now, were there any challenges in any of your duty stations with being a female service member?
I have gotten really lucky, thankfully. I think being so young, I was pretty much on the same page with a lot of people that were also deployed because you have to think about it. A lot of people deploy for a lot of different reasons, and everybody wants to be there.
Right.
So you're able to connect that way. And knock on wood, I've been lucky up until this point in my career that I haven't seen any discrimination or anything like that.
That's good. Because, one thing that I can honestly say about the Navy and the Marine Corps is that the Navy Chief Mess, they do a little bit better job in regard to taking care of service members. I don't, from the outside looking in, obviously I'm not in the Navy,
right? But
I got the experience, the Chief's Mess as a gunnery sergeant,
right.
And I saw how, they do things a little bit different, how the chief is kind of in control versus, top-down leadership. Now, if you could go back in time, if you could say if you're looking at all of the recruiters, did you interview any other recruiters, by the way, or you just went straight into the Navy?
I just went straight into the Navy.
Okay. Now, all right. Now, if you had a choice, okay, all right, between picking any other branch of service, Marine Corps, would you pick any other branch, honestly?
In hindsight now, no. Okay. And the reason I say that is because, and that's ultimately why I joined the Navy, is the duty stations. I mean, you're by the ocean. 9 times out of 10, you're going to be in a good duty station. Whereas if you join like the Army, you're going to be in like Wyoming or something like that. So that was really what keeps me in the Navy, honestly. So
that's good. So you plan to make it a career?
I do.
Okay. And are you going to go 20 years or are you going to go past 20 years?
I'm just going to see how it goes. And as you know, my fiance is in the military as well. So that's going to be, the dual mil thing is going to be a learning point for us as well. So as long as everything is good, I am 100% okay with doing 20.
Shout out to my brother, United States Marine Corps. Where's he at now?
Camp Pendleton.
Okay, he's at Camp Pendleton. So I got a phone call, right? And he says, "Get my queen anything that she wants." I said, "Who is this lady, man?" And I will tell you, the experience with us looking at properties was seamless. Okay, you have a keen sense of attention to detail. Where does that come from? Does that come from the military, or does it come from?
I think it comes from the perfectionist in me. I just want to do everything right the first time, so that way I don't have to do any rework. And I wish, going back in the purchasing process, I wish I would have been a little bit more relaxed about it, because it just made for a lot of unneeded stress.
It was easy, right?
It was easy. And I think that was part of my concern, was everything was going too smooth. I've heard all these horror stories about people, oh my gosh, this happened, and then with the inspection and all this. And so I was expecting that. And when I didn't get that, I'm like, there's no way it can be this easy. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I submitted my documents, told them what I wanted, and now we're buying a house. Like, it just doesn't make sense. You know?
It went fast, right?
It went fast. It went so fast.
How do you like the area that you're in?
I love it. I was hesitant about the commute since it's in Fallbrook and I live work in San Diego, but it hasn't been bad. I can time the traffic, listen to my podcasts.
Yes.
It's good. And I have a Tesla now, and with the solar panels, I haven't paid over $40 in electricity. So I like to think I'm driving for free.
Yes.
So it's all worked out.
Now, one thing that I do want to talk about is that you're doing an outstanding job on social media with bringing information.
Thank you.
Does that come from recruiting duty, or does that just come from you just want to get the information out? What's the goal of your TikToks?
So when I first started recruiting, I was seeing the huge gap in information. I didn't realize that so many people on active duty didn't know anything about the reserves. So that was my initial interest, is just getting this information out to people. And obviously, there's been fruits to that. People see that and they can trust my information, and then they come to me, and it's just been a cycle of like feeding off that, just trying to help people out, and people are coming to me and it's helping my business too.
Okay. Well, tell us about your investment property, okay? Because I want to unpack that portion, and then we're going to go back to the military.
Okay.
So what year did you buy your property?
2024.
2024. Okay, and that was right on the back end of COVID, right?
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the things that you like about the property that you invested in?
It's in a little community, which I was hesitant about the HOA at first, but I actually like it because it's clean. Everybody's so nice. Like, the only people that are there are people that live there. So it's just, hi, like that friendly neighborhood vibe. And I really like I said, the solar panels, and I have a little backyard area. So that's probably my favorites.
Okay. Now, your property value has gone up.
It has.
And we were able to negotiate some closing cost credits from the seller. Do you remember that experience?
I do.
Okay. You want to talk about it?
Sure. Yeah. So I can't remember. We bought down a little bit on the interest.
That's correct.
And then I can't remember what else we did, but I just remember it was a good deal because a lot of people, whenever we were putting in offers, we were getting outbid a lot.
Yes.
And I was just shocked because some of these places that I was looking at weren't even that nice in San Diego. They weren't even that nice. Like, there was flooding in one of the houses. And
I forgot about that.
I'm like, how is this happening? But so I was surprised. Like, it was like, hey, put in the offer. They gave us credits, which was another thing that I was like, there's no way. This is just too easy.
Yes.
But yeah, that was super nice. And I'm really glad that we did that because the interest rate was high and we were able to buy that down a little bit. So,
and this is one of the biggest things. And the reason why we're talking about this is because a lot of people usually negotiate properties, and their real estate professional is not looking at alternative ways to point the money towards the veteran's purchase. So we were able. Now, let me tell you, she was on my behind. She's like, hey, what am I signing? I want to tell you right now. This don't look. Hey. She was.
Let me see the fine print.
But you know what, though? When someone asks those questions, it's good to know, because now the secondary process with investing is going to be a lot easier. Would you agree?
Yeah.
In addition to that, I wanted to talk about some of the properties that we looked at in San Diego. And let me tell you my little secret of how I got you guys to invest up there. I said, all right, let's look at the driving distance from this place to this place. And it was about the same, looking at everything. But do you remember any of the properties that we looked at? Do you remember that solar panel house that we were looking at and it had flooding down at the bottom? Do you want to talk about that?
So I walked into an open house, and the open house was, I could tell that they put a lot of time and effort into it. Like, they had like a taco guy and like whatever. So I had a lot of hope, and it was super cute. But once you started looking a little closer, like, the floors were buckled, and like when you stepped on it, you kind of like bounced a little bit. And I'm like, what is going on? So then I hit you up, and you did some research, and you're like, yeah, they were trying to be like shady about the water. What they say, it was like, it wasn't even, they didn't even come clean. Oh, there was some moisture. I think that's what they said. Some moisture, whatever. And I'm like, and here it was like flooded with 3 feet of water.
So it's crazy because so many people get blinded by the stuff, that the attention to detail. When we first started looking at properties, I told them exactly what I look for, right? And then when, us working collaboratively, I think that a lot of people think that real estate investing is not working with the person that's representing you. But you made it easy, because once I told you what to look for, it was like, nope. So I definitely remember that flood house. I wonder if that property sold, actually.
I don't know. I just remember like going, like, everybody's like, oh my gosh, I love this. And I was like kind of listening, and I'm like, there's no way that people are buying this. Like, it was like lipstick on a pig. Yep. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, okay.
And then I remember one property you walked in and you said you could smell that it was moisture or something.
Yeah, it smelled like a basement. Like, yeah.
San Diego, man, is crazy because what's crazy about that area is people will buy that. And I remember we wrote an offer on one property and it was trying to get us to take over a crazy solar panel deal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hell no, we're not doing that.
That they couldn't really speak on either.
Yep.
That was like the biggest thing. Yeah, the house is this much, it's all great. And I'm like, okay, what about the solar panel? Oh yeah, that's easy.
Yeah.
I'm like,
and didn't know how to transfer it.
Yeah.
This is to bring in flashbacks now because I'm starting to remember the process.
Yeah.
But I know your house is improved in equity. And one of the biggest things I want to tell you guys is that, military towns are easy because service members move in and out. You have the U.S. Navy, the Army, the Air Force. It's all centrally located. And Fallbrook is blowing up. What are some of the things that you like about that area? And where do you see them building at? Because I know they're building in that area also.
I like it's right off the highway. I'm like one exit, like one little turn. So I really like that. Also, I see a bunch of signs everywhere, like they're building schools, and I just see in the next, 10 years or whatever, it's going to be a really booming area. And all the people that called me crazy for driving 50 minutes to work are going to be like, dang, I should have bought when she did.
Yep.
So that's like the biggest thing.
What, now, I know that there was I'm pretty sure that I remember you telling me that people were telling you not to invest. What would you tell those people today?
I would tell those people to think about what's best in their situation instead of trying to apply what other people have told them to every situation. Because if I would have listened to people that told me not to, I would have regretted it.
Yes.
And houses aren't getting any cheaper here. I know interest rate is a big thing for people, but with the VA loan, luckily we always can refinance. So I don't really understand if you can afford the payment, why not just buy? That's kind of what I think.
Now, I do have another question. Switching from the military portion back to your career, do you foresee yourself going commission?
I do.
Okay. What's the plan? Tell me the plan.
The plan. Okay. So ultimately, I need to go active duty first. So right now, I'm technically on active duty, but I'm just in definite recall orders, whatever. But in the Navy's eyes, I'm still a reservist. So I have to go active duty, and then I have to apply. I already got my PHR. I already am working on my master's. I'm doing like all the things I need to do to build up my package, and I'm just going to apply.
One of the biggest things that she said that a lot of people miss, that don't take advantage of, I have known you to be a penny pincher looking at your content, right? Is invest your money for a rainy day, okay? And take advantage of all benefits of the military. So you already had your undergrad degree, and is the military paying for your graduate degree or no?
Yes. I'm going through American Military University. So their classes are specifically charging what TA will give you. And you can get TA in active duty, and now you can get TA in the CELRES as well. So that's nice for people. You just pay like the electronic fee, which is like $80 or something.
That's crazy. So, and just to share some, some where I'm in parallel with you is that I received my degrees in the military also. Okay. And guess what, guys? Well, I'm not going to tell y'all a secret. I was going to tell you a secret. I'll tell you off, but I want to announce it. But I'm working on something outside of that as well. But I have a couple of other questions for you. What are you seeing from the difference between the pulleys that, 10 years ago, going into the Navy, that you are seeing today? I heard that there's a problem with getting recruiting done for service members. What challenge do you see with that?
I think, and I mean no disrespect to anybody, but I think people have unrealistic expectations when it comes to civilian employment. If you join the military right out of high school and you've never had to look for work, if you've never had to like network in the civilian world, people think that, oh, I have military experience, I'm going to get a $100,000 paying job anywhere. I'm going to work for Boeing. I'm going to do whatever. And I think that it's just an unrealistic expectation because it is competitive. The civilian employment force is a lot different. You have to learn how to communicate with civilian employers. And unfortunately, I just don't think people are taking that seriously enough. That's
Interesting. So did the Navy make make their quota this year?
For reserve, yes.
Okay.
Active duty, it's different.
Oh, so you're doing reserve recruiting.
For prior service.
What's the difference?
So active duty recruiters are the ones that you see in high schools. They're recruiting anyone off the street. I'm recruiting just people that are either coming off the military or from other branches wanting to join the reserves.
Interesting. Now, what do you think is more challenging? Do you think it's difficult?
I would say it's kind of depends on how you look at it. Active duty recruiters have more of a challenge because it's more babysitting. They're dealing with like 17, 18-year-olds and a lot more issues when it comes to just dealing with the civilian workforce. But they also have a bigger market. They can recruit anyone. I'm stuck with just people that have served, which, as you know, is not a big percentage of the population.
Right.
So it's kind of a narrow, but you have less of that other stuff to deal with.
Okay. That's pretty interesting. What has been the biggest challenge with you recruiting? What have you seen in regard to you hitting your quota?
At first, it was just getting your name out there. That's the biggest thing. But I'm really glad that I took this on because I'm learning a lot, and it doesn't take a lot to build relationships, and it's really got me out of my shell in that way. And to see the potential, like whatever you want is just on the other side of meeting somebody. So I always say, if you want to be on a yacht, the only thing that's stopping you is you don't know someone that owns a yacht. So, you know what I mean? So it's just really been beneficial. And then it's opened my eyes to all these programs. There's so many, like you working with your nonprofit. People don't know about these things. And so that's my biggest passion, is just the help is out there. You don't have to sit here and be, bummed out in your situation. There's someone to help you.
Yes, you don't have to figure it out by yourself. That's a really good point. And that's kind of the reason why we started this whole thing is educating service members on their VA benefits.
Right.
Right. I have so many people calling me. I had a E9 dual military family that had been in the military. Neither one of them had purchased a property.
Wow.
And they had been in for 25, 26 years. And their first purchase was with us. And and when I was communicating with them, they were very financially savvy. They had money saved up and everything else. They just thought that they had to get out of the military to use the VA loan.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
That's crazy.
Right? So just guys, listen to me, man. If I'm going to tell you anything, if you're a service member or you're or you're out of the military, take advantage of the benefits because they're out there. Even with getting out, there's some changes with the Montgomery GI Bill and the post 9/11 bill. Do you want to talk about how people can benefit from that?
So you basically get to choose which one you're going to be pulling from now. And it's just flexible. Like it gives you more options to cater to whatever your goals are. So, I mean, that's kind of the biggest thing. And if I can put a little plug in to anyone that's listening, if you did have a good experience buying a home, please share that with people.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, the world is filled with people that, haters, that want to just talk bad about buying homes and they don't want to see you succeed, whatever, or it's just coming from their own insecurities. But if you've had a good experience, please share it to encourage people that maybe are on the fence or maybe have never considered it. So yeah,
that's a good
just
one.
had to add that.
And I'm glad that she said that, because stop listening to people who have not gone to where you're trying to go. Like there's a lot of people that will give you advice on something that they've never done before. Right. It's only subjective. I've never heard anybody in my entire time that I've been a real estate investor tell me that they regret buying a home with their VA loan. Not one single person. Even with people that had, a bad experience with the market going down and them having to sell and doing all types of other stuff. Those people are still coming to me trying to buy properties because they know the long-term value of it. And I think what it is that people are looking at the cost versus the long-term value of the product, right?
People can see the dollar amount you're going to pay, but they can't see that imaginary number that you're going to have eventually, the opportunity cost of buying the home and the future investment and all that. And I think you're preaching like, please buy homes. And unfortunately, with what you do, people think that you're doing it just because it's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why people need to start talking about their experiences. Hey, look at my home. Like it's, I've made this much on it. And then just getting the word out there and helping, you
Yes.
encourage people.
Yes. And, one of the main reasons why you're here today
Mm-hmm.
is because I saw you on the podcast. I saw you on TikTok pushing content out about little things that people overlook, not just investing in real estate, how you're saving money, how you went to what your experience was at buying something, or just little things like that. I think it's really good. Now, from your first video to today, what has been your experience? Do you believe you should start sharing your content earlier, or do you believe that you're right on track with your process?
I think for me, I'm glad with how I did it because I didn't start too early and put out misinformation. That's my biggest thing, because once you put out something that is wrong, people won't ever trust you again.
That's the truth, yeah.
So I really am diligent about doing my research and just really trying to figure out like what the right information is to put out. And I just want to come across really genuine so that people don't think there's so many people online trying to make money off of people, like
Mm-hmm.
subscribe to my, class and do this, I can make you a millionaire, that you just get kind of stirred up with them and everybody thinks that that's just what you're after.
Yes, that is a fact. And that's the problem that I have. Well, it's not a problem, it's a challenge that I've already accepted is going to be that way. People, no matter what, at the end of the day, if you're uncomfortable talking about money, then swipe left,
Yeah.
right? Go to a space to where you can be mediocre. But if this is something that everybody needs, information, right? And I think that the problem that most people have is that they're afraid to get out of their comfort zone.
Yeah.
They're comfortable working paycheck to paycheck. And I've said this time and time again, you're not going to be able to save $1 million in your lifetime. Okay? If you save $10,000 a year, it will take you 100 years, okay, to save $1 million. You can only get there by two things: real estate and a business. Those are the only two things that print money that you can invest, so you don't have to save as much money to reinvest and capture compound interest.
Yeah, and I think people think that you have to be something special, but just know that you're not alone in the situation. I'm just some random girl from a small town that decided to do it. I was super scared to do it, but once I did it, it encourages you to, oh, that wasn't so bad. I'll buy something else. So in my head, I was like, I have to be this super established person with this crazy plan in order to be in a position to buy a home. But if you're in a position right now, that's all you need.
And I remember you were telling me, like, you were before you moved into your own space,
Yeah.
that you were like on a ship or something like that, or in a room, you had
Roommate
roommates.
situation. Yep.
And you're different because you're a lot older. You're more, not older, that's not the right word, but you had already been, you were more experienced, right? More mature.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you saying that I have roommates. What was that experience like, coming from there to owning your own place?
It was a breath of fresh air. It was a change I didn't even realize that I needed. And I've really been able, starting my relationship, I've really been able to grow personally and in my relationship since living by ourselves. And I feel like a grown-up, now I'm doing grown-up things. I didn't, no shade to anyone that has roommates because it is expensive. But if you are in a position where you can, like I said, buy, I really, really encourage you if that's not coming across.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So just to recap, what advice would you give your 18-year-old self today just about life? If you were talking to a person, you're about to be a military spouse, you're a service member.
Yep.
What advice would you give a new sailor coming into the Navy in your position?
I would definitely tell them, first of all, figure out where you want to go, what you want to do ultimately, and then work back from that. Figure out what steps you need to do to get yourself closer. Like, for example, if you are an E1 and you want a commission, okay, well, what things do you need to do to build up your package to do that? And just start slowly working on it. That way you're not going to overwhelm yourself and it's just going to be natural. And along the way, if you're working towards something, you're going to meet the people that you need in your circle to get those things done. And be intentional with every move. because you are going to end up wherever you put yourself. And that's the biggest thing.
That's really good advice, guys. I think the example would be when she's talking about commissioning. The commission is the fruit on the tree, but she had to plant the seed first, right? So for those of you that are looking in your investment journey, or if you're trying to advance in the military, the very first thing that you should be doing is write a plan of who you want to become in the future, and then reverse engineer the processes to get there. And even if you fall short, you at least have a measuring rod or what you need to do extra to get there.
And things are going to change. Things are going to change along the way. And that's just the journey. And you just change with it. And everything's all good. And don't underestimate the power of a network.
Yes.
Either. So get in with those organizations, talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk to higher ups. Don't be afraid to talk to people like him who, someone might be intimidated by your success, but you're open, That's my advice.
That's and guys, listen, stop hanging around people that are lost in the wilderness. Because those people will encourage you not to do something to advance because they want to keep you where you're at. If somebody tells you shouldn't buy a house, that's not your friend. If somebody tells you shouldn't invest in your future, that's not your friend. If a person tells you not to go to school, that's not your friend. And a person who tells you not to get commission, those people are not your friends. Get better friends, because you can only grow at the capacity of the hierarchy of your social network. What do you think about that?
I think that's good. And an easy way to discern the difference between someone that's, just helping you out, getting you constructive criticism, is if you tell somebody that you want to do something and right away they just say how you can't, but don't give you advice on how you could get there. That's an easy way to tell. Like if someone's like, "Oh, I don't know, it's pretty competitive, but if you go and do X, Y, Z," you can tell that they have your best interest. But if someone's like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
Like there's just no way. Have you seen it's only an 8% acceptance rate? Then you kind of know like, okay, this person, And another thing I've noticed along the way is once I've started actually doing my own research and looking into things that I can do, it's a lot of people just don't know. They just are saying things that they've heard, but that's not true like at all. So do your own research too.
Create your own ceiling, man, because your ceiling might be higher than theirs. So typically, if you're around, even, and this could be, I'm going to tell y'all this, I might not like this one, but I'm going to say it. It might be your husband or wife, okay? Sometimes you got to say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and I need your support, right? Sometimes you got to kill it. I ain't telling y'all to go out and get divorces and stuff now, all right? But what I am saying is that whatever your personal goal is, you set that goal, and then you get, obsessed with getting there. I cannot tell you how many people told me not to get into real estate.
Right.
I can't tell you how many people told me, why are you going to school? When I was in the military.
I know you said a story too about like an article came out about you.
Yes.
Or whatever.
Worst. Oh my gosh. Okay. So in 2008, an article was written about me for being a military, entrepreneur. And they put some stuff in the article about my financials. And it was one year, I think it was printed in the Marine Times in like 2008 or 9. And that was the worst thing that could have ever happened to me because I had so many people trying to tear me down in the military.
Right.
It's crazy. It's like, why would you want, and you can see, where you can see it at? You can see it in the military networks, right? Like the Marine Corps has, certain Facebook pages. They'll talk about, stuff going on in the military, but if it's outside of building or networking with people, if it's something like that, they automatically will troll.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
I think it's just a culture thing, unfortunately. And
Yes.
I'm really hoping that we see some change, and that's why I'm trying to empower people to make their own decisions and stuff. And another thing is just not discounting like what your potential is either. A lot of people don't think that they can do as big of things as what they really can. And it really doesn't take that much. Once you start doing stuff, it's like, okay, and grind out in silence. Like
Yes.
don't boast about the things. Just let your work show for itself, and that kind of filters out the haters too. Like if
Yes.
you don't tell them your plan, you don't tell them what's going on. It just makes it easier because I'm very influenced by the people around me. I like approval, I think, like anybody. And so I just learned to kind of keep quiet about things.
That's good advice too, man. Stop announcing your takeoff. Be in the sky first and then tell people.
Right.
Right. They're like, oh, you got to, sometimes your success needs to be a surprise to people.
Right.
Right. Unfortunately, I have to put my stuff out there to entice you. Right. To get more people. But I'll tell you one thing that I've learned in business that most people don't understand is that the more you help people, naturally, organically, more people are going to come to you.
Right.
You don't even have to, boast about deals. And I see real estate agents doing this all the time. 25 million in gross commission this year. Nobody cares about that. That doesn't resonate to the client. I would rather for people to talk about, hey, I helped a service member invest in their first piece of real estate. We were able to get them a fantastic deal. Congratulations.
Right. So in your experience, like from your side of things, why are people not buying homes?
From my experience, I think the reason why people are not buying properties is because the misinformation is out there. People are, have buyer procrastination because of the interest rate, which can be avoided. You can avoid paying interest on your property with a strategy. And I think the other thing is that, service members being afraid to buy something that the value isn't there. And then the last thing that I definitely will say is by influence, listening to everybody else instead of studying the market, right? I'll tell you a fun fact. America is 7 million houses short right now. So if I know that America builds a million houses, 1 to 1.1 million houses a year, it's going to take us 7 years to break even. So why wouldn't you invest in the future? And then I like to ask people, like, do you want to raise your kids in base housing? Or do you want to raise kids in a home that they would inherit in the future? Like it's not, sometimes your success is not from you. You plant seeds that the tree that grows, you might not benefit from the shade, right? It might be your kids can benefit from what you planted 20, 30 years ago, but people don't look at it like that. They look at the now versus the future. And that's what investing is. Plant a seed now, have a tree later.
But even like if people just look at like the past, like there was a point in time when interest rates were like 14%. Yep. I was talking to a gentleman just the other day and he's like, I was like, oh, dude, he was a retired like 04. And he was like, yeah, I never really got into the whole buying property thing. I bought property at 17%. And I was like, that's crazy. So if you compare that
to now,
that's nothing. But if you compare now to when it was like 2%, obviously, so it depends on what you're looking at.
What your barrier of entry is, and then I would tell y'all, it's a race to get as much property as you can. Yeah. I don't care what anybody says. The greatest generational wealth builder is going to be real estate. It's been proven decades upon decades upon. People will go and write a check to go buy GameStop than to live in a home that they already, look, guys, you already live here in California. You already live where you're at. If you're stationed at a duty station, you're going to be there for 3 years and you're getting tax-free money. Why are you not taking the money and giving it to yourself versus investing it into somebody else's pocket? I do not understand it. It's like this cyclical thought process that people are afraid to invest when they first get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I forgot what I was going to say. I'll come back to it.
Okay. Well, I do have a one closing question. Well, first and foremost, I want to say congratulations for
Thank you.
Your successful TikTok channel, being a recruiter, getting your graduate degree. Are you done with your graduate degree, or are you finishing up?
Working on it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, working on your man. That's a lot to accomplish in that short amount of time. Mm-hmm. What is the best way to find you if someone was looking to rejoin the Navy through the prior service member program?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, HM1PSR. I'm on YouTube. If you just want to look up information, Navy Reserve FAQ. I'm on LinkedIn, Brooke Oachs. Yeah.
And then what is your TikTok channel?
My TikTok is Brookie, BROOKIE, HM1PSR.
Okay. And guys, thank you so much for tuning in. This has been a great podcast. Thank you for coming
Thank
on
you.
here. Guys, if you guys are looking to follow me, my name is Anthony Glenn. I'm the founder of the Winning Podcast. My phone number is 760-573-2731. If you guys want to win in real estate with your VA home loan benefit or partner with a veteran, we got a free VA loan masterclass this weekend, this Saturday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time at 805 College Boulevard, Suite 103 in Oceanside. And guess what? You don't have to live here. You could be virtual. I'm going to teach you everything that you guys need to know about the VA home loan benefit, and not just the VA home loan benefit, how to build an unstoppable business through businesses in real estate and our 5-generational wealth pillar builder. So I can be reached again at TonyGlennII.com, 2N, 2 I's. And then I'll see you guys next time. Peace.